Hi everybody, today I'll be talking about a couple of builds I have. In particular, the knife build with the critical path and the combat axe with martyrdom builds. I'd like to start with the knife one first. For that, I've gone with the flesh tear and uncanny strike. Uncanny strike because you would want to get rid of the armored ones as quickly as you can without much problems. That really helps with the crusher hordes and the mauler hordes when you're ambushed with that, because while they're bleeding they would also receive more damage, especially with the +8 stacks of bleeds from the flesh terror blessing. As for the weapon, the range one, I usually don't use it much, but I just have the shredder just in case I might, get ambushed by the ragers. It kind of helps when like getting ambushed by that. The revolver is also nice too. I have one revolver as well, but I don't really use it much either. I just, use this one the most to like stagger them with the collateral 80 stat here. It really helps to get rid of those and like, create a breathing moment in those times. And for the blessings, I would prefer having damage resistance against the gunners and corruption resistance. And my personal preferences would be block efficiency. Because when you're surrounded by the horde, you might have to block sometimes. Not all the times, as zealots, the zealots constantly attacking. But there will be moments where you have to block, especially while you're fighting with the monstrosities. I've stacked the max health curio. Well, if you wish to, you might have a like +1 wound instead and have the 20% max health. Because sometimes 2 wounds might not be enough for most people. It's a personal preferences too. I honestly prefer having one additional life too, just in case, but I've gone with the 20% max health for this instance. And let's start with the most interesting part, the talent tree. We'll have to go with the right path because we have to have this particular one node, Scourge. This really helps because as the knife's not really doing much damage, they don't really die with the one hit. They kind of take the damage and leave like that. But if you apply critical hit to those targets, they activate this node right here. And when you apply damage again, like deal them damage, de-stack, while also having your critical hit chance too, which is really neat to have. And of course, the toughness replenishment on melee kill. These really help, especially with the gunners when you're dealing with them. You have to dodge left and right to, try to assassinate them with the heavy attack animation to them. It really helps. And this one is essential too, as we'll be doing critical hits left and right. This really helps to, maintain your toughness to not to, diminish it as quickly. And I know Duelist really helps because you, as the knife users, you know yourself, you'll be dodging like 724, so to speak. And this really helps too, because you'll be doing critical hits all the time because of this path, as you'll have like additional critical hits, 15% from this and 10% from this. So you'll be having 25% critical hits. And also, when you're stacking it, you would have 30% critical hit chance too. So, when we think about it, we would have, let's do the math, 25 plus 30, that would be 55% critical hit chance, if stacked well. And that's not bad either. And we went with this path because, just in case, if we ever get in some like troublesome situations, because no one guarantees whether if you're gonna like ambushed by the Crushers or the Maulers, because their attacks can be lethal too. And we're going with the toughness damage reduction path this way because we really want to have like as much toughness damage reduction as possible, because the biggest threat would be to having your toughness reduced or having it reach to 0. And for this we're going with the Fury of the Faithful path instead of the most common one, the Shroud Field. You really wouldn't need a Shroud Field in this case, because as you'll be having this critical path build, you'll be heavy attacking and dodging backwards, and constantly doing that. Doing that would be helping you to have the bleed stacks for the Crushers and the Maulers. They would be really dying quickly in that regard. As you must have watched from the previous videos of the knife builds, I've been doing that too. Just heavy attacking to their heads, to their heavy attack, sorry, to their weak spots, and then backwards, going backwards and dodging backwards. Yes, I've had this too, because the faster you swing, the more damage you'll deal, logically. So we would kind of have this for the DPS purposes, damage per second. And we have to go this path to have the swift certainty, because with the heavy attack animation of the knives, you will be sprinting very quickly. And as demonstrated on the previous video I've uploaded, you can literally run after the enemies that are, like pass through you once before. You can literally like hunt them with this particular node we selected. Well, that's basically it, really. This talent, this particular path we've gone, it may look like out of place. I just mostly like don't go this like one line. I like when I select the abilities here. Like I like it when it's really mixed here, because I kind of choose the ones that I found really the most useful. I don't really go one road. Alright, now let's talk about the Martyrdom builds. For the Martyrdom builds, I have my combat axe, particularly the Mark II, I believe, Rashad combat axe. We've gone with the Rashad combat axe because it has a special stat in it. It has finesse, or finesse, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but I digress. Finesse stat. We need it because, let's read the stat here, because it increases the weapon's attack speed. Not only that, the critical hits and the weak spot hits. And as you can see, even if it's not much, it's a, for example, I have this mode, which tells the specific amount of multiplier it has. At 80, it says, the light attack speed would increase about 11%. But that's not really a big issue. That's not the thing we're looking for. The thing we're looking for is the heavy attack critical one. It really helps to get rid of the Maulers and the Crushers when you're using the Fury of the Faithful ability. The only problem would be mobility, but it's a personal thing too. If you're used to having more mobility, you might feel a little bit overwhelmed by the dodge distance. After all, the knife's dodge distance is, if I remember correctly, 11, while we have 1 with the mobility of Rashad combat axes. But it's okay. Let's talk about the blessings we have. Okay. Well, I'm still old-fashioned, as you can see. I'm still using the brutal momentum. Okay, the main reason I have brutal momentum is that you just wanna have to, like, you might want to get rid of the common enemies as efficiently as you can, because you might get ambushed and overwhelmed in most cases without this brutal momentum. And Head Taker, you know, it's kind of like a meta for the combat axes, like Head Taker all the time on many other weapons too. But it's up to you. I mean, some people prefer Thunderous too, but I'm okay without Thunderous because I have the heavy attack um with the brutal momentum and also the finesse stat here. And for the stats, the meta, I believe, should be Flak Armored and the Maniac for the combat axes, as usual. As for the range, it's really like personal preference again. I have the same shredder, I have the same range with the knife build in my Martyrdom combat axe build as well. Okay, I forgot to switch those. Let's switch them back. I want to have the runes, obviously, for the Martyrdom builds. The more wounds you have, the more stacks you would have with the Martyrdoms. Okay, where was it? I kind of couldn't find the last one. Oh, there we go. Okay. As we can see here, I have the block efficiency, damage resistance, gunners, and corruption resistance again. I have the corruption resistance on all of them, but not the block efficiency on all of them. I thought about 2 of them should suffice with the combat axe. And as for the talents, it's really interesting, I believe. I went with the right path this time again, but just discarded this and that. As we aren't doing really critical hits, as the combat axe's critical chance is rather low compared to such weapons like Tactical Axe Mark IV or the knife. We have discarded these 2, and then I've added these additional 3. These 2 really help because when you're dodging, and you might want to maybe take out some of the targets in while you're like fighting with the horde. And this really helps the spread of the weapons. It decreases it so that you can kind of like aim downside with it with the shredder. You get the picture. I got this too because I'm also dodging left and right, and as you may know, the Martyrdom builds require you to have less damage to have more stacks. So this would help you in the combat while you're fighting with the horde. And here again, as I said before, this would help too while you're dodging and also with the critical hits and the weak spot damage too. As can be seen, I have this too because these are kind of like essential for the Martyrdom builds, as you'll have very less damage constantly. It can be overwhelming for most people. And I've gone here, as I said, the Martyrdom builds. These 2 are essential, really. Like, you cannot go without these 2. As you can see, it gives 5% toughness damage reduction. It's really essential. And also the attack speed too. As the combat axe's attack speed is rather slow compared to other weapons, say the tactical axes for instance, you do need those attack speeds, as I've demonstrated on the combat axe video of mine. You really need to have the additional attack speed. And for here I just chose this one to have, you know, additional damage for the combat axe. But that's it really. Okay, I just want to demonstrate one last thing with the the knife builds. Okay, so while we're fighting with the crushers, I have this pattern like doing the heavy attack to the weak spot, as in their heads, and then bashing backwards. Dodging backwards. Okay, first I just wanna activate the critical path build first before going further. Let's activate it. Alright. Okay, so what I do, I just like do the heavy attack and go backwards. Especially during the ambushes, like when you're surrounded by the like 5 or 6 molders, or vice versa, 5 or 6 crushers. all you need to do is just like doing the heavy attack for the head and then bashing backwards. As you'll be stacking, as you can see, look at the bottom of the screen. You'll be stacking the rending of the knife too. It really helps. Let's see. I meant this. Dodging backwards, sometimes failing too. Happens very often with the Zealots. This really helps too. And with the Ragers too sometimes. They have some amount of time where they kind of like do the attack animation. You kind of like do the heavy attack and rush backwards. It could be hard to do. Okay, what I meant with the sprint attack animation, I meant this. Sometimes the enemies could be, you know, like charging towards you. Let's say the the Tox Flamer is like rushing towards you to activate the Tox Flame. Instead of him or her attacking you, you could just like rush towards him to make the attack animation, and vice versa with the trappers too. But you just wanna, you know, just do the knife attack to them. But it's paramount that you have to focus on their weak spots, otherwise they won't die. That's not the case with the armored ragers. They don't die with the one hit. They rather die with 2 hits, but it's not a problem. Especially with the ragers, it really helps when you're like ran out of, or let's say while you're reloading your gun. Well, that's basically it, everyone. I hope you're going to enjoy the builds I have. It's really fantastic, and when you're playing very carefully with the knife, you really become immortal. As I've previously uploaded my video, the knife one, you really like don't even go down if you play carefully and like dodge the threats at the right time, and your attack patterns matter too. Just want them to be on bleed constantly, as you can see. Oh, maybe I forgot to mention one last thing. I've gone with the bleed flesh terror blessing for particular reasons. Let me activate it one last time. Okay, so I've gone with the flesh terror path because, as you can see, they're bleeding super quickly, especially with the ogre-sized enemies. See? That's not something to be, you know, like, not seen. Really, it should be paid attention to it, as you can see. It's crazy. The amount of HP it's decreasing gradually. Not so bad. Quite helpful. And it helps too when you're like rushing backwards while doing the heavy attack animation to the crushers, the crusher hordes. Alright, that's all I have to say now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you around.